Hello, I'm Alexander Hagen. I use the scientific method to analyze power structures. Right now I'm concentrating on Libya. Worked very hard to get Obama elected and now oppose him for the reasons that we will describe. We have 11 questions that we want to understand why the press will not ask the government, why there isn't a single investigative journalist in the world that can ask anyone in our government the fundamental 11 questions about whether Libya is morally justified or a pretext. And here are the 11 questions without further ado. So to Obama NATO, I say, why won't you answer these questions? If you're found in the wrong, it will be pretty bad morally. You will have killed and destroyed billions. However, if you repent now, your future will be better. And when I say repent, I don't mean to be sanctimonious or preachy, but you know what I mean. So there are 10 questions we should ask Obama NATO about Libya, and I beseech any investigative journalist, and I will pay a bounty if you can get these questions asked from the leadership of NATO and the Western powers, and I mean asked so that you get an answer, so that you have a counter response when they don't tell you on your initial question at the very least. So why won't these questions be asked? This is a black guy in Cyrenaica in danger of getting killed. Many were killed based on false rumors that they were mercenaries, which Amnesty International and Doctors Without Borders attested there was no evidence to support. And if you are right and you are just in your cause, why won't you discuss these? Why don't you want me on your side? And why are all of these companies unwilling to discuss these really difficult questions, these media companies? So here are the questions. If, as most analysts show, the sitting Libyan government is more widely supported than the rebels, does that not destroy the whole basis of this violent intervention? In other words, we can't very well be with the people and protecting them if they don't want us there. 2, what do Syrian analysts believe would have happened had the Libyan government reoccupied Benghazi? Actually, we know a few hundred, in the low hundreds, were killed at the outbreak of the revolution, the rebellion, and bear in mind that there were a siege on an armory to get heavy weapons from a city that had a very high number of militants, jihadists in it. That's not entirely spurious. I'm not trying to simply distract the question, though. Let's keep it central. The serious analysts indicate that at most a few hundred would have been killed in the occupation of Benghazi. Susan Rice was on the Colbert Report this week saying tens of thousands would have been killed. I believe she put in the number now at tens of thousands instead of thousands, because it's already now known that NATO has killed 1,000 to 2,000 people. So she now has to boost her numbers so that she can bury that on page 2. Then I ask, are we willing to judge ourselves on the same standard as Gaddafi, which is to say, if there is a fraud, and it can be largely established, that statements like this are known to be untrue, and when the consequences are the destruction of the psychological health of a people through invasion and bombardment and terror, especially children, as well as death and destruction, what does that mean to commit such a fraud? What are the legal and moral consequences? And many of us in the world are interested in exploring this question, not just now, but for years or decades to come, Susan Rice and Barack Obama. and Mr. Cameron and Mr. Sarkozy and Mr. Berlusconi and all those who support the apparatus, NATO and Rasmussen, simply answer these questions and I will apologize. 4, why have you ignored the ceasefire provision? Why have you ignored this provision? How can you possibly bomb for the rebels when the loyalist government is largely besieged and in a defensive mode with a fairly fixed line of scrimmage without the NATO bombardment? The bombardment could have resumed had they done a large offensive maneuver with a cessation. But if the rebels aren't willing to go to talks, you have no business proxying for them because you're violating your own charter, which is, again, fraudulent unless it's incompetent. And this is far too large a mission, far too many intelligent people for such an oversight to occur. 5, a NATO representative said, I just saw this the other day on, I think, Volkenzimmer's YouTube site. A NATO representative was saying that they had bombed sites in Libya that they were certain were non-civilian. When a reporter from BBC asked them about accounts of civilian death, he said anyone with a tank is a threat to a civilian, because he asked, why would you be attacking defensive positions? So he said, we're with the Libyan people. So how do they know they're with the Libyan people? How many Libyans support these actions? Will they discuss this honestly? And of course the answer is no to all of these questions. Now here's Libya's human development indicators. Although my figure on mean years of schooling showed them ahead of the US by a year on male side and even with female. So I have to break that one down. If anybody can provide proper references to normalize that, we'd have to go and look at the US basically, what their mean years of schooling of adults is. And what we've got here now is at the bottom, the orange line is the Arab countries, I believe, and the red line is the world in general of countries in human development, and Libya is the blue line. Why is this not discussed? That will be point 7. Why do they never talk about Libya pre-invasion and say the reason that people in Libya should revolt against Gaddafi is because of political repression, and the way that we're going to help the Libyan people retain their benefits is why. And these benefits should be acknowledged. Why won't you acknowledge these benefits? Why won't you discuss the fact that Libya had the highest human development index in Africa, nearly the same as Chile and Argentina? Why don't you acknowledge the fact that you are damaging one of the few countries of its kind that actually can provide for its citizens in a way the United States cannot for its own? And if you don't believe me, I will pay you $10,000 to, on the whole, discount this argument, which would require 12 average people picked at random as a jury and a retired judge, and I would pay them all a modest stipend to render a verdict. What is your response to the Amnesty International and Doctors Without Borders report that showed no evidence of heavy weapon use, no evidence of rape, Viagra rape, no evidence of mercenaries? In fact, many blacks were killed because of these rumors, which were probably pre-arranged rumors because there were too many rumors that have all turned out false, that all came out too fast. So it looks like they may have been rehearsed, shall we say. And then how do we have the moral authority to determine that Gaddafi has no moral authority when their system is different from ours? Why don't you discuss their system? What was it like? There were these village councils. There was a central government. Gaddafi acted as a revolutionary guide and wasn't in the central government directly. Why won't you discuss these things? Why won't the media ask you? Why won't they keep you from not answering? Why, if your story is true, don't you talk about it? Now, and then the next question I have as an American is, why are we always the ones shooting everything up? We shot up Iraq, what for? We shot up Vietnam, what for? We shot up, what do you call it there, Afghanistan, what for? We're bombing Libya, what for? What the hell is it that we can't use diplomacy? There are people all over the world, people that you might look down on as an American or a Westerner, that are asking why you are so bloodthirsty, why you're so incapable of talking to people instead of shooting them. And why is it that the press won't ask any of these questions? If there is not a single investigative journalist left? And if they do ask the questions in any sort of vague, oblique way, due to their vast ignorance usually, that they're getting at the meat of the matter, but in a way that doesn't involve any facts, just intuitively, perhaps. And then they have no way to hold the person accountable when he gives them disinformation. I haven't seen any fact-checking on this. Then, questions 10 and 11 and 12. So let me go back to 10. If we want to show Arabs we support their aspirations, how is carpet bombing Libya doing that? I've read a lot of blogs and message boards showing people from other Arab countries to say they weren't in support of Gaddafi, but out of principle they need to now. Because what do you think it looks like to an Arab, what's going on in Libya? There's a constant rain of bombs against a sitting government that there is, the majority of the evidence has more support than the rebels. Why won't they talk about this? What do they think they're doing? They're saying, oh, finally, the US is doing something about an Arab dictator. Oh, yeah, finally, we are doing something like we did with Hussein, I guess. They sure loved that, didn't they? Finally, we're doing something about an Arab dictator. It's a traditional enemy of ours. It's a socialist. It's so principled of us, while we ignore our allies' abuses in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. What are the polls in the Arab areas? Why do you think they are shifting to Gaddafi? Why won't you talk about it? Assuming you are right and they welcome your freedom, what are the potential consequences of blowback? What are the consequences of arming militants? You know there's Al-Qaeda and jihadists, violent jihadists, because jihad itself means to struggle righteously. For example, our American revolutionaries would have been jihadists technically from a Muslim point of view. They were struggling for civil liberty and rights and a proper ethical government. It's just crazy to be arming these guys. Do we have, and why won't they lay out a case how this is going to be better for the Libyan people with facts, not lies, not guesses? How can billions and billions and billions of dollars and millions of lives destroyed without doing this? A high school group could do at least an attempt to do this. So what I say to you, if you're an American, I say that you have a duty to no longer be silent. You have too much blood on your hands. According to my calculations, we've probably done at least $3 trillion worth of damage just to the Middle East in all of our depredations. That would be $10,000 per man, woman, and child in restitution just for those conflicts. Vietnam would probably be $50,000 in restitution. And you may think this is funny because it didn't happen to you. So I believe that at some point, if you have any conscience, if you have any decency, if you have any true American spirit in you, you will eventually rise up against this military monster. If we should bomb Libya, what is our responsibility to do oversight to make sure our government does it properly? And with 4 million people killed in our wars since Vietnam, the principal killer in the world through state violence, why do we think this is going to work this time?